we've only got a few key ideas left. So here are key ideas you should be aware of for Shakespeare's culture. Now, I know we've already touched on this first one at the start of the lesson, but I would say it's probably one of the more important ones, so it bears repeating. So often as an English teacher, I've had to correct students' work where they talk about the wrong kind of audience. You want to make sure that you're talking about the right kind of audience. So if your play is set in this time period, or if it was written in this time period, then it is an Elizabethan audience. If it is written in this time period, it is for a Jacobean audience. If you're not sure, you can just look up Google when were Shakespeare's plays written. It'll come up with a whole list of them. Find your play, find the time period, and then match it up with this, and then you know. Now, that's all well and good, understanding the difference between an Elizabethan and a Jacobean audience. But what difference does it make? Being able to reference it is great, but how could you use that then to talk about the historical culture, the historical context of, you know, which king or which monarch, sorry, is ruling at the time? How can you use that to talk about it in your analysis? Well, here are 2 key points for talking about if it's set during the Elizabethan era, 2 key points for talking about if it is set during the Jacobean audience. So, Queen Elizabeth ruled only over England, so the yellow section on the map, whereas when King James ascended the throne, there was a unification of England and Scotland. These 2 became one country. So you can see this in Macbeth, because Macbeth is set as a play during the Jacobean era, and Macbeth is talking about how a Scottish general goes crazy and you know, kills the King of Scotland, and then it's only with aid from England, so Malcolm Duncan's son, the prince, who runs away to England and then comes back with an army of English people and then becomes the ruler of Scotland. So it's kind of like Macbeth almost gives you a nice story for the unification of England and Scotland, that England came to Scotland's rescue and stopped a rogue Scottish general from destroying the land. Okay, the Elizabethan era is very prosperous, it's very rich, it's regarded as a golden age of British history. So to give an example, Sir Walter Raleigh is one of the, or Drake would be another famous example. Both explorers, so Walter Raleigh colonized parts of America and came back with things like coffee and spices and potatoes, famously. So the Elizabethan era was very rich and people were expanding and exploring new islands, whereas the Jacobean era wasn't as prosperous due to debt, so there's a little bit more dour and perhaps also a little bit more religious and Puritan as well. During both eras, though, people strongly believed in the supernatural, whereas King James I ordered a witch hunt on an unprecedented scale. He tried to have as many witches killed as possible. And you can see this in things like Macbeth as well, written during the Jacobean era. And lastly, this is a point that we've just mentioned. Although Queen Elizabeth sent many expeditions to different countries and different islands, most of the actual colonization and setting up colonies there took place during the Jacobean era. And here you have an example of the witch hunt, so a trial of witches. This was actually in London, where they were trying witches for their crimes, or their supposed crimes. So, just a few key ideas to reference, whether it is Jacobean or Elizabethan, so that you can understand a bit more about the historical context of the play.